Again, welcome to today's presentation. Agile IT and Microsoft present Office 365, bring the power of the cloud to your business. We have Joshua Shea, Microsoft Partner Business Development Manager, Tim Tetrick, Microsoft Technical Solution Professional, and John Gillum, Principal Consultant at Agile IT. Joshua, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Kathy, and good morning to everybody out there. My name is Joshua Shea, and I'm a Partner Business Development Manager. And I'm hoping we can have a little fun today discussing what Microsoft and our valued partner, Agile IT, has to bring to the table. We've got my counterpart, Tim Tetrick, alongside with us, and he's going to demonstrate this solution plus a couple of other features and functions within our Windows Phone offering, which I'm sure you'll be interested in watching. So my role as a Partner Business Development Manager is to help our partners deliver the hosted solutions to our end customers. We have probably about 20 slides here that I wanted to cruise through. Some of it is setting the table to help you understand why customers are moving to the cloud and what are some of the specific benefits they're receiving with Office 365. And then we'll go a little bit deeper into the solution, talk about the pricing structure. That'll take about 20 to 25 minutes, and then I'll flip it over to Tim, who will deliver a demonstration, at which point, when he's done, he'll turn it over to John, who will talk about the professional services offering, which, by the way, Agile IT, I'm sure some of you are familiar with, is one of the premier Cloud Champion Club members. There are Tier 3, which is the upper echelon, which is a program that we have specifically for partners who have exhibited very high competency and have completed a number of cloud migrations. And it offers them special funding, enhanced support, and additional insights into the business that other partners don't have. So that's why we partner up with them. They always deliver. It's just been really great working with them. So that being said, let's move on here really quick. So looking at it high level, right? What are the things that turn a CEO or CIO on to possibly moving over to a multi-tenant Microsoft hosted solution with Office 365? First and foremost, cutting operational and technology costs, right? In fact, a lot of people are on legacy technology today, and they're looking at the differences between, buying a bunch of capital requirements, hardware, servers, infrastructure, setting that up to get onto the latest version of perhaps Exchange or SharePoint, versus moving to the cloud, where you have the operational expenditure budget versus the CapEx, and it just makes a lot of sense. That part is very lucrative. And then, of course, getting up and running easily, quickly and easily for that matter. My favorite type of prospect is the guy who essentially, their machines just crash, their infrastructure is down, because we're able to come to them and, they're just completely out of luck, emails down, and we can come to them and say, hey, let's get you up and running right away, right? And we get a partner connected, and boom, they can literally be up same day. Whereas if they were to have to ship a bunch of servers and go through that whole rigmarole, it would take possibly days, if not a week, to get back up and running. And then giving people the tools to be productive, right? A lot of people have no idea what is available within Office 2010, which is a part of Office 365 as an option, let alone some of the more enhanced and advanced features in Exchange and SharePoint. So when people start to to see some of the things that they can do to increase their productivity, Office 365 can turn viral within an organization. Perhaps you start on Exchange Online, and then maybe a couple of people get the full suite, and then others see what's going on there, and they're like, hey, I want that too. So some of the business challenges, very common, right? How can I keep pace with my ever-growing quantity of email in my inbox? I personally, as an employee, through past companies, have struggled with this, right? I spent a part of my day, every day, managing my inbox, deciding what I was going to move to a PST file, what I was going to delete permanently, just because I was always approaching that mailbox size limit. This is a very common thing that it's kind of just par for the course for a lot of companies. They don't even realize what kind of impact that has from the intellectual property side of people possibly deleting email, let alone own, having a corrupt PST or a rogue employee that just deletes everything altogether, versus just maybe it's only 2 minutes a day that somebody spends cleaning up their inbox, but multiply that by your entire company, by X amount of days in a year, and it adds up. So we're offering a 25 gig mailbox. I think that's what I'm getting at. And ideally, your company, all of your employees within your company won't have to worry about that anymore. How can I give my employees access to their email and calendars from anywhere and everywhere? Access without VPN is one of our great stories here. You need not worry about setting up that virtual private network. You could access it via the browser, in many cases via the mobile device, and of course via the PC. And then how do we maintain the security and compliance of our messaging environment? I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the more recent announcements around HIPAA and FISMA, which are some of the latest compliance requirements that we're able to now satisfy. But the bottom line is, we're bringing enterprise-class technology, compliance, and security to the masses. If you're a brand new organization or somebody who's on legacy technology and you're trying to replicate what Microsoft is offering here, it's a very expensive proposition. That's the beauty of the cloud, right? Not only does it scale, but it's also enterprise class. So very exciting in that respect, and we definitely have buttoned down our legal documentation around privacy and security, and we take it very seriously. So be sure to ask us about that if that's of concern for you. So you can see security and reliability are often, first and foremost. Anywhere access, what's the business value? What's my return on investment, right? We're often seeing a 6 to 9 month ROI on the cloud. And then, it depends on how deep you go, depends on how many soft costs you calculate, but it can be quicker than that, and you could save 2 to 3 times over what you might be spending on a, hardware investment. IT control and management, the story is great, continues to get better and better each mini feature release we do. So, Office 365 is secure and reliable. We do have a risk-based, multi-dimensional approach where the security program, we've got people, processes, and technology in which we analyze, and we've got 9 different layers of security, physical and logical. We've got the privacy practices that do support global standards. We set a very high bar. Especially in the world of our competition right now, I think we're leading the pack in many respects. 99.9% financially backed SLA. That is also a differentiator from some of the competition out there. And you can see, I just recently added this. I think it's been in play now for 3 months or so, but a business associate agreement is part of HIPAA compliance. And that's something that we're able to auto-draft through your online subscription portal. And you can add that to your HIPAA file and feel good and go to sleep at night knowing that you are compliant in that respect. In addition, I had also mentioned there was an updated release on FISMA, F-I-S-M-A, and that relates to the federal guidelines around information security management, transport with email, etc. So we've got that covered as well. Bottom line, if you're interested in a deep dive on that, we've got security white papers that you can review, and there's also a Trust Center website that we can post a link here. Perhaps, Tim, maybe if you're listening, you could pop in that Trust Center URL into the IM window so people could download that. And then world-class data centers. We're really unmatched here. And I think that $2.3 billion investment is that number is a little old. I believe we're surpassing $3 billion. And geo-redundant, globally load balanced. We've got data centers in North America, Asia Pacific, Europe. And if one data center were to go down, it fully it's like a hot swap, flips over to the next, and you're always going to be up and running. All right, so let's talk about identity, right? Federated identity and single sign-on. And this is, by the way, is something that John Gillum and the Agile IT team have set themselves apart with. They're identity experts. And whether you're just wanting to use, kind of the cloud directory within Office 365, or if you're wanting to do kind of an Active Directory synchronization, continue to manage your users via AD and push it up to the cloud, or if you're wanting to do a true single sign-on experience. Doesn't matter what level you're at, we'll be able to accommodate your needs. And we also have a role-based access approach to many of the features and functions here. I'll take archiving as an example. We've got these granular roles in which you can define, who's going to be kind of like the compliance officer that has the view of everything, in several different roles all the way down to the end user who can only see their own inbox. And then, of course, a simplified management experience with remote PowerShell capabilities, and Tim can talk a little bit more about that when he demonstrates the administration center. Workload migration flexibility. You might be thinking, hey, this sounds great in theory, but it's risky for me. Perhaps I'm on point for managing IT within my organization, and I'm not sure if I want to stick my neck out there yet and just do a straight cutover. That's great. Tiptoe into the cloud. Go in a coexistence mode and start a subset of your users, into the cloud, and have the bulk of your users on premise, test it out, and then as it progresses, you continually add more and more users until you're fully into the cloud. Or in some cases, some of our customers have a persistence coexistence scenario. Maybe it's because of internal compliance or legal policies where perhaps they work for the government and they have to have a subset of information on premise all times. It can't be in the cloud. We can accommodate that as well. There is a 12-month subscription agreement, speaking to the licensing agreement. It's simplified. It's, we have terms of net 30 available for you, or you can pay via a credit card. We consider it a variable cost model in that you can add users when needed. You could also change subscription types, and you can mix and match. It's very flexible. Self-service dashboard. This is just talking about the support story. You can subscribe to RSS feeds. You have 24/7 included IT professional support. You've got a robust partner ecosystem, and in our case, you are privileged to be working here with Agile IT. You can see I popped their logo in there. There's also self-help stuff. There's forums, there's community support, but bottom line is I think we're unsurpassed in the level of support when you compare us up against the competition there. And by the way, you may have heard me mention Agile IT as being part of the Cloud Champions Club, and one of the benefits they get there is the ability to escalate things through myself and Tim. And if there ever was an event in which you were working with support and perhaps we exceeded our SLA in response, or there was something extremely complicated, John and his team could run it through us if they couldn't figure it out, and we could escalate it and triage an upper level engineer to make sure that it got addressed right away. So that is one of the hard benefits that you can get by going through Agile IT that you might not get through a different partner. The best productivity experience, and we're getting close to wrapping up these slides, but this is a really great story. We've got what we consider the best productivity experience across the three screens: the PC, the phone, and the browser, right? And you could read some of the text here, but the bottom line is wherever you're at, if you're on the go, if you're at a hotel kiosk, if you're at your laptop, your home, it doesn't matter. You're going to be able to have kind of a unified experience across all three screens. So this picture here is what we call the infrastructure optimization model, and I throw this slide in here because I kind of want to wrap up the business value and what this might mean to your organization by giving you an idea of what some of our customers have done. So the IO model, as it's known, is a kind of a score-based system that actually calculates where your IT department is on a scale of being basic, where you're truly just a cost center, you're standardized, you're more of an efficient cost center, rationalized, where you're really becoming a business center, you're enabling the business, and then where most companies should strive to be is being considered a strategic asset. You're dynamic. And the reason that I love this is that customers who have taken this score system, the IO model, before and after, they're able to move from one quadrant to the next, and in some cases skip 2 quadrants altogether. And just very quickly, it's predictable costs. They're able to optimize their productivity. They don't have to worry about spending time managing infrastructure. In fact, there's been kind of a long-standing debate as whether or not IT was really going to adopt the cloud, because people were like, well, a lot of these guys, that's their livelihood. That's what they do. They manage Exchange. You got your Exchange administrator. What is he going to do if he doesn't have to manage Exchange anymore? And I think our answer is, well, let's have him focus on more strategic projects that drive bottom line revenue to the business instead of just keeping the lights on, right? So, I mean, there's some change management to be had there, but ideally, if you're a CIO or a CEO, that should be music to your ears. So this is very exciting to be able to help customers move from one quadrant to the next. So what is Office 365? Okay, we're talking about I'd say first and foremost, Exchange Online. You heard me mention the 25 gig mailbox. It's fully filtered for spam and viruses using our Forefront technology, which, by the way, is available as a separate service altogether, but it's added into the Exchange Online piece. We've got a great story around archiving, retention, legal hold. The link component, which I'll talk about here in a second, weaves into Outlook via Exchange Online, so you get to kind of have a unified experience. But I think a lot of customers come to us first for Exchange, and then they start to think about SharePoint Online. They're like, you know what? We did a review of SharePoint a few years ago. We really like the idea of it. We love the idea of having kind of giving everybody their own personal My Site and having it perhaps first and foremost for document management, but also maybe starting to build in some workflows and doing some project management through SharePoint. But it was too difficult for us to figure out, or we just didn't get around to it. We didn't have the time. Well, now Microsoft will stand up a SharePoint environment for you. Agile IT will be able to give you an idea as to what you could quickly do in terms of giving you the biggest impact, biggest bang for your buck, or right away, right out the gate, maybe using some of the templates, or perhaps they could even help you, from a consultative perspective, set something up. But the bottom line is it's a very robust solution now hosted in the cloud, so you don't need to worry about setting it all up. We've got that taken care of for you. And then what some people consider the dark horse or the sleeper within this whole suite is Link Online. It's what we're using today, right, for this webcast. And you can see very seamless animations within PowerPoint. Talk about remote meetings. Talk about the cost of other solutions out there. I mean, you see advertisements all the time for $40 a user per month for, a webcast solution. This is included, right? You have the ability to have remote meetings, one-to-many, one-on-one. You can even use the voice and video chat capabilities. But the real value here, in my opinion, is the instant messaging and presence capabilities. It's easier understood when you see it than hearing me talk about it. But if I was to describe it, I'd say it's the lifeblood of this entire communication and collaboration solution. And it's a persistent stream of information around everybody's presence or availability, global address list information, status, whether they're busy, they're free. It syncs to your calendar. So if you're on a phone call, you don't have to do anything. Somebody looks at your status, it's going to say in a call, right? If you want to be on Do Not Disturb, which me personally, I'm on Do Not Disturb right now because I'm doing this webcast, nobody's going to bug me, right? But if I wanted to get really granular and decide, hey, you know what, when I'm on Do Not Disturb, there's 3 or 4 people that I do want to be able to ping me, I can define that, right? That just gives you a little bit of a taste as to what can be done with Link Online. All right, and then we're talking about Office Professional Plus, downloaded to the desktop. It's the same bits that you would get as if you bought it via open licensing or you went to Best Buy and bought it via shrink wrap. Okay, this is Office on the desktop. There is the Office Web Apps component, which extends Office into the cloud, but a lot of people are confused. They hear Office 365 and they're like, what is that? Is that a new version of Office? No, it's, the suite of solutions all coming together to give you a collaborative experience, but Office Professional Plus is a part of that. And we'll look at the pricing model here, but I just want to make sure that you guys are clear, you do understand that this is basically a subscription model for Office. Okay, so we look at the worker segment out there in two different views. We see one of them, which is your traditional information worker or IW worker. That's probably you and I, right? It's a guy that sits at his desk most of the day, has a computer, has a dedicated machine, maybe a laptop, also a smartphone, and they need your full stack of capabilities that we just discussed. But if you're in manufacturing or maybe healthcare or retail, you likely have a pretty large section of users that don't sit at a desk. Maybe they check a kiosk once in a while, but that's it. And historically, it hasn't been cost effective for you to give them a domain-enabled email address, let alone access to your SharePoint environment or whatever intranet solution you're using. So here we go. We're introducing the kiosk offer. And this is just what I described. It's a fully filtered email address that they get, also access to SharePoint Online, and even you could extend them the ability to access Office web apps. So, some use case scenarios, you got that manufacturing facility who has HR department, but they're always posting their HR updates to a bulletin board. Right? How can they ensure that those employees got the message? I don't know. Now, what they have SharePoint, they can check off, a workflow to ensure that those employees go to the kiosk and they're able to access that and, sign off on a new policy, or they could receive it via email and have a read receipt. So lots of scenarios there, I'm sure you can imagine, but the bottom line is we do have two distinct offerings now. The kiosk worker is a very low-cost offering, and you can kind of see, just recapping some of the statistics that we see in the differences between an information and a kiosk worker. So kiosk worker, it's actually as little as $2 a month if you're just going Exchange Online kiosk. But if you add SharePoint, it's $4 per user per month for the K1 plan. The K2 plan throws in Office web apps. And by the way, this is our updated pricing. We just had a price drop about a month and a half ago. You see the $2 price, $4, or $8. So that's for your kiosk worker. Looking at the information worker, this is our, I guess you could call it our super suite. It's the best bang for your buck, best value. It's the E3. E stands for enterprise, but I don't want you to get hung up on the word enterprise, because most of our small business customers are looking at the enterprise now, enterprise offering, being that it not only includes the Exchange, SharePoint, Link, plus Office Professional Plus, but it also differentiates itself from the quote-unquote small business offering in that it does offer included IT professional support. So you can see here you get the Plan 2 versions of Exchange, SharePoint, and Link, plus Office Pro 2010. The ability to do Forms, Access, Excel, and Visio services. You get the Office Web Apps extension and some other items as well. So $20 a user per month. There are some smaller plans. The E1 is also very popular. Maybe you already have Office 2010 on the desktop. You don't need it. You just need E1. For $8 a month, you get Exchange, SharePoint, Link. Maybe you want the Office Web Apps extension, but you don't want the rich client on the desktop. You have that available as well. And then if you're wanting a PSTN replacement solution using Link, at this point, we don't have a true Link voice solution. That's something we're looking towards in the future, but John and his team are also experts at the E4 option, which combines Link server on-premise with Link online and gives you a hybrid deployment in which you do have a voice solution using the Link technologies plus everything you get in E3. A lot of information. A lot to digest. I think the messaging here is that you'll be able to work with John and his team, and they'll address any questions that you have, from a licensing perspective or identity or technical. So this scenario here is likely not going to apply to you. Maybe it will. I haven't really looked at the reg list here to see how many 3,000 employee companies we have on the webcast, but I think the idea here is that the ROI concepts hold true regardless of the size of your organization. And you can see some of the benefits in the value per user per year around improved productivity, the savings that were made via collaboration, BI cost avoidance, the travel cost. You can go gangbusters on this, you guys. I mean, I think the average trip costs like $800 or $1,000 a day for your typical corporate employee when you include airfare, hotel, rental. Cut one of those down a year, right? Have them meet via link. Have them do some video conferencing. You could totally recap the cost of this solution just with that alone. Reduction in training costs, conferencing savings, et cetera, et cetera. So this is also interesting too. You could have your e-discovery taken care of in many respects with the Exchange Online component. So lower audit costs, right? Bottom line, overall savings, they add up. So what are the press and the analysts saying? They have nothing but good things, right? If you look at some of these quotes, I'm not going to read through them, but there's this thing called the herd theory in which customers are more apt to move towards a solution when the herd is going that direction, when they see other companies and businesses they trust that are moving towards a solution after assuming that they've vetted the offering. And that is the case. A lot of these are enterprise organizations, but there's 10, if not 100 times more big brand name SMB customers in the mix as well. But you can see these guys are on the solution, right? So we've got a lot of momentum, and I'm very excited that you were able to attend this presentation. And being that it is being recorded, if you're listening on the recording, I hope that business value presentation was valuable. And at this point, I'm going to flip it over to my sidekick, Tim Tetrick, who is going to do a rockstar demonstration as he normally does. And wish you luck, Tim. Thank you. And Tim, I am not hearing you at this point. Not sure if it's my issue.
Oh. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was having a little issue with audio there. It kept cutting out on me, but let me know if you can't hear me through the internal chat, but I think I'm back on now.
You sound great.
Thanks, Josh. So my name is Tim Tetrick, and I'm a technical solution professional with Office 365 for Microsoft. And just want to spend a little bit of time walking through Office 365 and give you a quick demonstration of the services, and really focus the demo on what the user experience is like. So what it'll be like for you and your users actually using Office 365 on a daily basis. And through that, to show how the really great integration of all the different services across the suite can ultimately help make you and your users more efficient and more productive. So what we're looking at here, there's a number of ways you can interact with Office 365. One of the common ways is to do it via the Office 365 portal. So you can access the Office 365 portal that we're looking at here through a browser. As users access, you'll see to be able to get access to some common things like Outlook web app, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, their SharePoint team site, which we'll also talk about in a few minutes. They can also get to some common downloads if they have access to it for things like Office Pro Plus or for the Link desktop client. Also some community resources for researching questions, asking questions, looking at blogs and forums and things like that. And for your users that you want to give admin access to, then they'll get this admin tab up here in the Office 365 portal, which will also give them the ability to administer the service. So things like administering users and groups and domains and managing the subscription, adding more licenses, all the billing kinds of things associated with the service. Also support issues, things like, submitting service requests through the portal or looking at the service health dashboard for the service. Things like that can all be done within the admin portal, as well as managing the in-services directly. So, getting access to the Exchange control panel for doing advanced configuration of the service, things like that. It's about Office 365 is it supports what we call role-based administration. So here we're looking at a global tenant admin, but you can also assign, billing admins, password reset admins, and really, get some granular control about what capabilities you want them to have access to within the portal. So that is the Office 365 portal. Again, one way that users can access the services within Office 365. But a lot of users are probably going to access it, the way they start their day today, which is via Outlook. So, Outlook is not required with Office 365, but when used, it really functions as sort of a hub or centerpiece for integrating all the components of the suite. And I'll point some of those out as we kind of go through the demonstration. Both Outlook 2007 and 2010 are both supported. I like to point out that the look and feel of Outlook that you may have today with an on-premise Exchange server or a hosted Exchange server, it's really going to be the same look and feel using Outlook with Exchange Online in Office 365. In a lot of cases, you and your users are going to get additional capabilities that are available in the later versions of Exchange and Outlook. But you're certainly going to get capabilities like a global address list. Having all your users show up in the global address list, getting things like contact photos, getting the data information showing up like title and department and all that good stuff. You're going to get as many distribution lists as you want showing up within the global address list. Also things like shared contacts or shared resources like conference rooms also showing up in the global address list and can be, booked out via the calendaring capabilities. One other capability of Office 365 is access to a personal archive. So the personal archive you can think of as really as kind of like a PST file in the cloud. So PSTs have some, local PSTs have some limitations. A couple of them being that, they're only available on the local machine that you happen to be on. Also the fact that because they're local, if you're not, taking care to back up that machine, something were to happen to that machine and that PST file, all that data could, potentially be lost. So with a personal archive, again, being like a PST file in the cloud, you're going to have those capabilities of, first of all, it's going to travel with you no matter where you're at, and we're going to see that with Outlook web app from no matter where your users are at across any browser, they'll still have access to that personal archive. And also, it's backed up and secure within our data center, so it's, again, it's secure. It's going to be there and available. It's not going to accidentally get deleted or removed in a crash of a hard drive or something like that. So personal archive, in some of the plans with Office 365, it's actually an unlimited space archive in addition to the 25 gigabyte mailbox. So great, storage capabilities as well. So within the personal archive, you can, a number of ways that you can interact with it. You can go in and set up folder structures and just drag and drop emails like you would with any other folder. But another way that you can use it is via policies, so archiving and retention policies. And I think I saw a question in the chat about this. With Office 365, an administrator can go in and set up specific archive policies. They can either set up, specific archive policies, or, as we see here, they can actually give a choice of different archive policies that then the end user can apply to different, mail items or different folders or to their mailbox in general. But essentially, after, you've set an archive policy on an item or a folder, when that period of time elapses, items will automatically be moved to the personal archive, as well as retention policies. So these can work together with archiving policies. Again, you can, as an administrator, define a specific retention policy or give a choice of policies for end users to use. But again, when the time elapses, items will be deleted with the retention policy. So again, you can use these in concert. So full calendaring capability, obviously, the ability to view other people's calendars subject to permissions. Some cool features like doing calendars side by side or in an overlay mode, which is kind of a cool feature for quickly and easily finding availability, and full contact support as well, in addition to the shared contacts that you might put in your global address list. Users are able to keep personal contacts with them within Outlook as well. So a couple other quick features of Outlook, and then I'll move on. For folks that aren't familiar with it, a couple of them I like to point out. Number one, conversation view. So basically with conversation view, messages with the same subject will get grouped together under a single heading. As you see here, it's a great way to clean up your inbox. It's a great way to have all, quickly and easily find all different emails, a specific subject. And also quick steps. So quick steps are kind of easy to use one-click buttons which perform multiple actions at once. So you can assign multiple actions to a quick step and just save some keystrokes. Again, great productivity story with some of the new capabilities. So with Office 365, we like to talk about, and Josh talked a little bit about this, getting this consistent experience of your email, your calendar, your contacts, your tasks across not only your PC or your Mac with the Outlook Rich client like we just looked at here, but also across your browser and across your mobile device. So let's look at the browser first. So Office 365 includes Outlook Web App, and you get this ability to for your users to access, again, their email, their calendar, their contacts, their tasks from anywhere across virtually any browser. So this premium view of Outlook that Outlook Web App that we're looking at here is not only just supported on IE, but it's fully supported on Firefox, on Chrome, even on Safari on the Mac. So if your users are out and about, they're at a kiosk or a shared computer somewhere, they'll still have, again, access to all these great capabilities. And as you can see there, the interface is very similar to the Outlook Rich client in this newer version of Outlook Web App. So no need for your users to learn a new interface. It's a very familiar interface that they're used to with the Outlook Rich client, and a lot of the same capabilities as the Outlook Rich client as well. So they're going to get all their online folders showing up. Again, they're going to get their personal archives showing up, which is great no matter where they're at. They're going to get capabilities they're used to, like drag and drop, the reading pane, conversation view that we talked about earlier. You can even right mouse click, get a little pop-up context menu, similar to the Outlook desktop client. So again, a very familiar experience. And again, full calendaring support from Outlook Web App. Again, the same ability to view multiple people's calendars subject to permissions. And again, your personal contacts traveling with you as well. Again, no matter where you're at from any browser. Okay, so looked at the PC story, the browser story, and then the final piece of that story is mobile device access. So Office 365 works with all major smartphones that support ActiveSync, and that includes Windows phones, that includes iPhones, Androids. We also support BlackBerries now via RIM's cloud-based BlackBerry Business Cloud solution that came out a few months ago. And all the different services across all the different mobile devices work relatively similar. I mean, you're going to be able to sync your email, sync your company directory, your calendar, contacts, tasks, all that good stuff is going to be synced to your mobile device and allow you to be able to access it. There is some additional capabilities, though, with respect to the Windows Phone. Really gives sort of a kind of a first and best experience on a lot of things with mobile device access, and I'd like to just kind of walk through some of those capabilities. Again, a lot of it's very similar to the other ActiveSync devices, but there's a few things I want to point out. It gives just a really great experience with Windows Phone. So first of all, just configuring is very simple and easy. I can go into settings on my Windows Phone. I can go into email and accounts, say add an account. You'll see here, first of all, very easy identification. I see Outlook, I see Exchange and Office 365. Quick and easy identification for setting up Office 365 on my Windows Phone. And it's really as simple using auto-discover. It's really as simple as just putting in your email address and password, and that's it. It'll automatically find your account. It automatically starts syncing your mail, your calendar. It also sets up your Office Hub, which is a really cool feature of Windows Phone we'll look at in a second. Sets up your Office Hub to automatically point to your default SharePoint team site. So we'll look at that in just a second. But again, you're going to get all of your emails showing up. Some great capabilities like Conversation View that we've talked about, also on the phone, ability to go into your emails, get things like contact photos showing up there as well, which is kind of a cool experience. Again, full calendar support as well, so I can go into my calendar, see all my meetings, see a different view of my meetings. I can drill into a specific meeting, get details on the meeting, slide over and see all the attendees that are joining. The feature I always like to show is this little late button. So we've all been there, right? You're in your car or run into a meeting and you're going to be late to a meeting and you want to let everybody know. Well, through a single touch here, I can just click this late button. And what it'll do is automatically create an email to all the attendees of the meeting and just pre-format some text in there to say, I'm running a bit late, I'm on my way, see you soon. So I could obviously go in and edit that if I want to, or I can just hit send. So with just a couple touches of a button, I can let people know I'm going to be late. Great feature for those of us who are habitually late to meetings. So another cool capability, again, this Office Hub. So when you go in and configure your email, put in your email and password, it'll automatically set up in the Office Hub a link to your SharePoint team site. And through that, I can go into my team site. I can see announcements, shared documents, tasks, all that good stuff associated with that SharePoint team site. And so, for example, I could go into shared documents here. I can see all my shared documents. I can even, for my Office documents, I can even do viewing and editing right from my mobile device. So very cool experience. Let's say, let's pick this PowerPoint here. It'll download the site from the cloud and display it right on my mobile device here. And so I can go in here. I can review this PowerPoint I've been working on right on my mobile device. And I can even go in and make some edits on the fly. So I can go in here, say edit, go into edit mode, choose the text I want to edit, maybe just add a quick, change the company name here, say OK to that, say done editing, see my change show up there, and then I can go back in here and say save. And what it'll do is it'll save that, post it back up to my SharePoint team site, and now I have the latest version of the document up there and available for anybody that wants to, that needs to access. I'll have all the latest changes up there, again, for anyone on my team that's accessing that particular PowerPoint, and again, my ability to do that from anywhere from my mobile device. So one last thing I want to show you too, another cool feature is the Link mobile clients. So we have these Link mobile clients for Windows Phone, again also for Android, also for iPhone, but some cool capabilities with the Link mobile client. So things I can do, like I can go in and set my presence, and we're going to be talking about this in a few minutes, Link and presence, but I can set my presence. I can see my presence information for coworkers and colleagues that I interact with. I can even go in and look at old IM conversations that I've had, the messaging conversations, right from the phone. I can go in and look at those. I can also go in, let me go back. I can also go into a particular colleague, drill into them. Again, contact photos, ability to quickly and easily send an IM or an email right from the mobile device. And one of my favorite features of the Link mobile clients is one-touch audio join to Link meetings. So really cool feature here. Let's go in. Let's find a Link meeting. So if somebody set up a Link meeting, here's one right here. If somebody set up a Link meeting and I'm, again, out and about, maybe in my car, need to join this meeting, no longer do I have to set up for mobile, remote folks, no longer do I have to set up a bridge for them to join, an audio bridge. No longer do I, on my mobile device have to, fumble around and find the number and the passcode and trying to enter it while I'm driving. I can literally just do a one-touch join here on the meeting, the meeting link, and I'll automatically be joined via audio to the link meeting. So again, another really cool feature, and one of my favorite features, the new Link mobile client. Okay, so that's mobile device access. So again, across the 3 screens, PC, phone, and browser, great experience of being able to get access to not only email, calendar, contacts, tasks, but you can see also access to your Office documents through your SharePoint team site. Okay, so I want to spend a little time on Link Online. Definitely. Link Online provides instant messaging, presence, and web conferencing in one service. And there's a number of ways that you can interact with Link Online. One of the popular ways is through the Link desktop client that we're looking at here. And you see through the Link desktop client, you'll get, you can organize, colleagues, coworkers that you interact with frequently, and you'll get information back from them, like, again, their contact photos coming through. And you're also getting presence information. So for those of you that aren't familiar with presence is really kind of the current status of colleagues and coworkers. So for example, I can see here Alan is in a green status. That means he's at his desk and available. If someone had locked their machine or stepped away from their desk, they would show up in a yellow status or an away status. And this also integrates with your calendar, so that you can see here with Dan Jump, he's in a busy status. If there's a meeting on your calendar, it'll automatically integrate with that calendar. If you're in a meeting, it'll automatically change your presence to show red or a busy status. And you can change your presence yourself, or again, it will sync with your calendar, or if you're at your desk or away from your desk, it'll automatically sense that and put up the appropriate presence. But the great thing about presence, the thing I like to really drive home, is the value of presence, and we use this extensively within Microsoft internally, is it helps you make really smart decisions about the best way to interact with colleagues and coworkers. So for example, if I have a quick question for Alan, I can see that he's available, he's at his desk, so I might choose to go in and just do a quick IM chat. And I can just say, hey, hit him up with a quick IM chat, say, quick question. We can go back and forth with an IM chat. If, for example, I see here Dan is away from his desk, I'm not going to bother with an IM conversation. I might choose to send him an email or maybe a voicemail. He can respond at his convenience. And then obviously if you see them in a red status that they're busy, or even you can set your status to do not disturb. As Josh was mentioning earlier, I'll know, hey, I'm going to have to get back to him later. This is not an appropriate time. He's not available for questions. So great capability, saves time and productivity, being able to make those smart decisions about interacting with someone. So the other great capability of Link is that, so let's say, for example, here with Alan, I started this quick conversation with him going back and forth via IM. I can also quickly and easily escalate this IM session into a more full-blown collaboration session. So with just a couple clicks, I can escalate this session into an audio call, into a video call, or even into a screen sharing session. So a lot like I'm doing with you here today, I'm sharing my desktop to do this demonstration. I could do in a one-to-one session, say, hey, Alan, if you could just see this, see my desktop real quick, this would make a lot more sense. I could go in, share my desktop, share a specific program, do whiteboarding, polling, all sorts of cool capabilities. But again, this ability to make the best decisions about the best way, right on the fly, to communicate and collaborate with colleagues, all within just a few clicks, all within one interface. And what's great is this presence information not only flows through into the Link client, but it also flows into the other applications and the other services as well. So again, this great integration with Outlook. We see presence flowing into Outlook as well. So not only do I see Dan's presence in this case, I can also hover over his name, get a quick contact card to show up, where I can easily and quickly send off an email message, start an IM chat, do an audio conversation, all from within this little contact card. And also, this information flowing into Outlook web app as well. So again, same information I'm seeing here flow. with respect to presence information, ability to get a contact card pop up, to do a quick chat or email session, flowing into Outlook Web App as well. This information also flows into SharePoint. We're going to look at that in just a second, and I'll point that out at that time. So what we just looked at here was really kind of the one-to-one, kind of on-the-fly collaboration session and the capabilities that Link provides. You can also do scheduled web conferences as well. So I could quickly and easily go in, call a meeting, and let's say if I'm going to have some people that are going to be remote and they're going to maybe need to join this meeting remotely, I can turn this into a web conference with just one click. So through a great little plug-in into Outlook, I can just, with one click, it'll automatically turn this meeting into a web conference through Link. So again, similar to the way you folks joined here today, I get a link to join the online meeting, get some help for my first online meeting, but this will allow, again, those remote employees and remote workers to be able to quickly and easily join the meeting from anywhere. And once they go in to join the meeting, they can, click join the online meeting, and they're going to get all those same capabilities that we just talked about. They can do IM and chat, again, like we're doing here today. We can do audio, we can do video, we can do screen sharing, all those same capabilities in a scheduled web. So some great capabilities. Link Online supports up to 250 attendees. That can be internal or external attendees. So again, just like the experience that you're having here today as external attendees, you can use that as well. And we've seen Link Online and web conferencing used for a number of cool uses throughout our customer base, but some common things like remote desktop troubleshooting, trainings, sales presentations, some really great capabilities, help save time and travel costs, things that you can do remotely now that you maybe used to have to travel out to. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about is SharePoint Online. So SharePoint Online, again, some people are more familiar with this than others. SharePoint, hasn't typically been accessible to a lot of small businesses out there because of the cost of setting up and procuring a SharePoint server and integrating it with all the other, with Exchange and with Link, and that was usually cost prohibitive to a lot of small businesses. So a lot of small businesses for the first time are getting access to SharePoint and the capabilities that it provides. Really at its core, you can think of SharePoint as a centralized place to store and share information. It's got great collaboration capabilities, so the ability to do document management and collaboration. We're going to look at some of those in just a second. It's got built-in search capabilities. You can even run business processes through it. So you could do things like, expense reports or time cards. You could set up online forms through SharePoint that instead of doing via paper today, you could go ahead and set up these forms, go in and have people maybe, again, for example, submit their expense reports right online, and then have business process and workflows behind that to actually, for example, if the expense report's less than $500, maybe it just gets approved, but if it's more than $500, maybe it gets routed to that person's manager for final approval. So some great workflow and things that you can do like that with SharePoint Designer and lots of advanced capabilities. But what I kind of want to focus on here is a lot of the things that you can do with SharePoint don't require, specialized knowledge or programming or any sorts of things like that. A lot of it is simply template-driven. You can go in and just pick a template, start populating it with data, assign permissions, and be on your way and getting some value out of SharePoint. So just to show you quickly how easily that is, if you have the right permissions, I can go in under Site Actions here, say New Site, and I'll get this cool little kind of carousel application here that shows the different types of available out there. So team site templates, some basic meeting workspace templates, blogs. I can even go into Browse All here and see all the different types of templates that are available out there. So again, as quick and easy as picking a template, like for example, Team Site, which is a very popular template. And then I can go in, it'll look very similar to this Team Site here. It'll have things like announcements, document repository. I can start populating it with data, assign permissions, and start, getting value out of it. And then you can start also playing with some advanced capabilities like embedding video, things like doing Excel services, embedding charts and graphs, for things like, BI, business intelligence, for dashboarding, lots of cool things you can start doing, again, above and beyond. But when I spend a little bit of time, one of the most popular uses of SharePoint is its ability to do enhanced collaboration and document management. So I want to spend a little bit of time on that. So some of the great capabilities for that within SharePoint are things like the ability to do check-in or check-out. So, you see a lot of times today people trying to do document management and collaboration on things like over email or via file server, things that weren't intended to be used, for document management and collaboration. So things like, people sending around a document via email. Here, make your changes. Send it along. Oh, here, you make your change. Not a great experience for doing that. Also, people trying to manage versioning through a file server. And that's where you see things like, v1.doc, v2.doc. Again, wasn't intended for document management and collaboration. But through things like, for example, check-in and check-out with SharePoint Online, I can check out a document, which will essentially lock it from anyone else being able to make changes. I can go in and make my changes, check that document back in, and now it's available for other people to go in and make changes. Also, versioning is very powerful, great feature in SharePoint. So the ability to turn on versioning so that anytime someone makes a change to a shared document, it will automatically version that document, and then I can go back at any time and view or restore an old document. So any changes that were overwritten or got deleted, they're not gone. I can go in at any time and again view and restore an old document. And again, here we see presence flowing into SharePoint, as I mentioned earlier. So let's say I had a quick question for Alan about a change he made on a document back in February. I can quickly and easily see his presence information flowing in. I can also, again, get this contact card show up, quickly and easily kick off an email, chat session, audio session, whatever suits the situation I can do right from within SharePoint. A couple other really cool capabilities I want to talk about. First, Office Web Apps. So Office Web Apps, you can think of them as companion versions of the familiar Office desktop applications accessible via the browser. So just like Outlook Web App is to Outlook, Office Web Apps is to the Office Rich client. So you can see here, again, no matter where I'm at, if I'm on a shared computer or a kiosk somewhere, I can still get access to my Office documents and still do viewing and editing of my Office documents right in the browser. Do not need to have the full Office desktop suite. And cross-browser support. So just like Office Web App, or Outlook Web App, sorry, full cross-browser support. So again, not only IE, but Firefox, Safari on the Mac, Chrome, all that great browser support as well. And you can see here I open this Excel document within the browser here. You see you're going to get full fidelity, all the formatting, all that good stuff's going to come through. If I have permissions to go into edit mode on this, you'll see I'm going to get this familiar ribbon interface that I'm used to with the rich Office client application. So again, a very familiar experience for viewing and editing right within the browser. A couple other cool capabilities that I like to point out as well, things like alerting. So you can set up alerts on a document repository so that you will automatically be notified via email, changes to a document, if new documents are added. Great capability to be proactively notified and set up alerts on different document repositories. Also the ability to view your document repository not only within the browser interface like we are here, but you can also sync this to Windows Explorer and get more of an Explorer view. So if you want to drag and drop or select multiple documents, things like that, you can do that right from within Windows Explorer, which is a more familiar experience for moving documents around for a lot of people. And finally, you can also sync this content into Outlook. So I can go in here and say connect to Outlook. So again, going back to Outlook sort of being this hub of managing across the different services, not only, I'm spending a lot of my day already in Outlook doing email, calendar, contacts, tasks. Now I can also get a SharePoint document showing up within Outlook. So I can go in here, I can view my documents, also load them, make changes to them. And what's great about this experience as well is that just like with email, this is cached offline access. So if I'm going to be unplugging from the internet for a while, I can still get access to these documents by syncing them to Outlook. I can go in while I'm offline, I can look at them, I can make changes to them. Once I go back online, it'll see the changes have been made, it'll prompt me and ask me if I want to sync those back up into my SharePoint team site. So you see here this little double arrow, it's a two-way sync with Outlook and the SharePoint team site. And not only can you sync documents, but I can also do things like sync calendars, shared contacts. So for example, if I go back in, maybe my marketing team likes to keep a shared calendar within SharePoint that we keep track of all of our marketing events and trade shows and things like that. Well, I can also go in into the calendar here, and I can also say connect this to Outlook. And it'll show up as just another calendar within Outlook. So, and the same thing with contacts. Show up as just another contact list. Again, all from within Outlook. Going to get that great experience here. Again, subject to permissions. I could go in here and make changes within Outlook and have them sync back up to the SharePoint team site as well. So just a last quick thing. Again, lots of advanced capabilities just to kind of whet your appetite for that a little bit. Back here. So things that you can do again with dashboarding and things like that, where you can start embedding, again, charts and graphs, things like Visio documents, things like that that you can start embedding, be real-time, business intelligence information portals right within SharePoint. Some great advanced capabilities as well, just to kind of whet your appetite with. So that's it for me. Just a quick overview of the services. Thanks for watching. And now I'm going to turn this back over to John to wrap up.
Excellent. And Tim, if you wouldn't mind hosting that or answering that question there for Adam. So I'm going to be talking about Office 365 Identity Federation. So we're going to go from a business value to a great end-user feature to some really technical components that are only relevant to larger enterprises. So as we transition from the great presentation Joshua has in explaining all the different features and benefits, and the excellent presentation from Tim, which really highlighted how all the applications work together, how you can be in SharePoint and see link presence, where you can be in Outlook and sync with SharePoint. And unfortunately, he didn't even have time to cover it all. There's even SharePoint Workspace Manager that you can sync with your desktop. So just the features are endless. But with larger enterprises, some of the reasons that customers haven't been able to embrace cloud technology is really how to secure it and how to enable what they already had in terms of Active Directory on-premise, their existing email systems, and extend that to the cloud. Customers do not need to give end users another username and password when they move to the cloud. Now, for smaller organizations, this might be the best way to move forward, but for larger organizations, Federation tends to be the best way forward. So if you are a smaller organization and you don't understand this or know why you would want to use Federation, you probably don't need it. So definitely don't worry, Agile IT through our services will guide you to the right approach and choose what's best for you. For the larger enterprises, we're going to be talking about in the next 10 minutes synchronization, basically how we get your Active Directory accounts to the cloud, as well as single sign-on or the more rich federation. We'll also briefly talk about email-rich coexistence, again, when we're looking for enterprise integration, where we'd like to trickle users to the cloud instead of moving them all in one weekend. So with our identity providers, we have our on-premise Active Directory. That's what you join your computers to. That's what you log on to your Windows PC with every day. And what we want to do is bring those to the cloud. So one of the options for Office 365 identity is Microsoft Online IDs. And so that's where just using the web portal or importing via CSV, we actually create IDs only in the cloud. And so we actually have separation between the cloud and an on-premise. The great thing about this, though, is my on-premise environment can completely go away, and my Office 365 environment has no dependencies on it. The more advanced synchronization option, which is number 3, is going to have a dependency on your on-premise environment. And some folks don't want that and don't have the data center or the internet connectivity already in place to handle that. So the next option that I want to talk about might be, a halfway point for those organizations. What this is a very mini version of Forefront Identity Manager that will sit on a server and sync your Active Directory and provision those users in the cloud. So without you having to create John Doe and let the directory know what groups he's a part of, you can use this sync service to auto-provision the accounts. And so in this situation, you do save the administrative burden of having to keep the job titles and the phone numbers in sync because your Active Directory on-premise can be authoritative, but you do still continue to have 2 passwords, one in the cloud and one on-premise. Again, the pro of that is that you have no dependency. You could lose your internet connectivity for a week and your email will continue to flow just fine and everyone can log in. If the connection was broke with the more complex scenarios, mail flow would work, everything would still be there, but unfortunately your users can't log in. And so that's the third option where we deploy ADFS. We actually provision the users and then bring back a full trust so that all authentication requests actually hit your on-premise server. So the dependency with the third option where we have single sign-on federation plus the directory synchronization we just discussed in option 2 does provide some dependency, again, on your on-premise infrastructure. Now, we can have multiple ADFS sites spread out throughout your organization, so we can help mitigate that. But again, that's additional complexity that we'll need to determine if it's right for your organization. So the third option, again, is going to provision and sync the users to the cloud, but instead of the password being stored on the identity service's Microsoft authentication platform, all authentication requests are going to be directed down to your Active Directory Federation server. So the second your users change their password on their Windows PC on Active Directory, their Office 365 mobile device password, etc., will also change at the same time. So just to kind of rehash the pros and cons, it's great to just have the Microsoft Online IDs for organizations that are under 50 users. Some users have gone for federation that are smaller, but a majority of our customer base has felt that under 50 users, they want to have the flexibility of turning off their server or having an internet outage and not needing to worry about how they're going to get their email. The con to this is we really don't have any custom authentication policies. We can't do two-factor authentication, which is when you have a device or a PIN code or an RSA token that you also have to be in physical possession of to access the system, nor smart cards. So certain government organizations will need to use federation to have those enhanced security policies. The other option is to have Microsoft Online IDs that are auto-created from your Active Directory information. The benefit to using this option is, A, I can always enable federation in the future because my credentials or GUIDs are mastered from my Active Directory, not in the cloud. So there is some kind of dependency that we do want to do sync if you possibly might want to do federation in the future as the best option forward. But again, option 2 doesn't have any dependency on your on-premise infrastructure should your internet go down for a week because a backhoe took out a major internet service provider line, you wouldn't just be able to provision new users, but all your current users would be able to log on okay. And then the third option is the federated IDs. So we do have full single sign-on with your corporate Active Directory credentials. The IDs are mastered on-premise and then moved to the cloud so that there is a unique identifier that can be synced between the two. And again, password policies are controlled on-premise. So if you want to have users reset their password or change their password every 15 days, you can do that. You drive your users crazy, but you would do that. However, with Microsoft, you either have a 90-day expiration policy or you don't have it expire at all. So there's more fixed options for you to leverage where when you own the authentication policy, you can do whatever you want, and you just set that via Active Directory. So again, we can also use two-factor authentication. This solution is leveraged when we need to have full rich client or coexistence scenarios where I want to move up one or two mailboxes every day and not have a really big bang migration where I'm moving hundreds of users over a weekend time. It's true flexibility. You don't even need to have an OST file resync. And apologize if I went a little technical, but if anyone manages an Exchange server today, that's the file that's cached on your Outlook desktop. And so when you move to the cloud, you don't even need to recache. You're that federated, you're that integrated with your on-premise Exchange as well as your cloud Exchange. The con to having all this benefit is there is some high availability deployment scenarios that we want to talk about to make sure that you have the uptime that you're expecting with a cloud solution. So we have a number of fixed price offerings, and you could get a high availability offering for as low as $5,000 installed, and that's leveraging the Microsoft ADFS software that you already own with your Windows Server license. So no third-party server requirements required. So the sign-on experience with this is, there is a client that should get installed on all your desktops to truly have the best single sign-on experience. However, if you just need web access or you don't mind doing some small manual configurations, leveraging, you don't need to install these additional components. But in our best practices, we do recommend a small little Office 365 sign-on component to get the best experience. Passwords, regardless of whether they're Microsoft Online ID or single sign-on, can be stored in the application, so you're not prompted on every session. SharePoint, you're prompted once a day or every 24 hours. But the other applications, like Link and Outlook, can actually save the password until they're changed. If you do have single sign-on, you won't even be prompted for your password to change because it's an automatic logon. Couple technical components. We do need to leverage a logon address of something that is publicly available. So we will need to have your users log on to normally their email address, which is a publicly accessible domain name. So normally for high security implementations, we might not match the email address, but in 98% of the cases, your email address and logon ID become the same user account. Domain join machines will, again, automatically log in. Non-domain machines won't auto-log on because they're not going to trust your domain controllers and send the password automatically, and that's a great security feature. So, does anyone have any quick questions? And feel free to post them. I see Shane has a question regarding UAG. I'll go ahead and talk about that, Shane, offline, because UAG integration is a little bit beyond the standard scope. So just in the ADFS server deployments, before we integrate UAG into the mix, and I'll show you where we can use UAG, a single server deployment would just be your Active Directory environment. You would install an ADFS server, and whenever you log on, Microsoft Online will go through SSL and an encrypted connection and connect to your ADFS server. There are more enhanced high availability solutions where we could load balance multiple ADFS servers at one site, or we can also actually split these ADFS servers to a completely separate site. When having external access, we also have external proxy servers. These help buffer incoming attacks and also allow us to support two-factor authentication. So essentially what would happen is your users would log in to Active Directory inside the organization directly to your ADFS servers, which won't have two-factor authentication required. Yet when they're external to the organization and need to come in from the internet, you can enable or require two-factor authentication. So just a quick tips to prepare for Identity Federation, and our job as partners is to help move you to the cloud with no surprises. So we go into all of this in much more detail. So please reach out to us if you have any questions or want the 1-hour version of this Identity Federation presentation. But a couple quick tips is we definitely want high availability if you want Federation, because I want all your users, especially in an internet outage where you might have some other things that you need to worry about. We don't want that to interrupt email as well. We want you to be able to communicate between your teams and your executives to make sure that email is always flowing. So we will want to discuss some high availability options. Every user must have a UPN, and we have some very specific requirements about that. And users just need to know that they can't log into their email with domain name /username anymore. They'll have to log on with their email address. So just a quick few slides here on exchange-rich coexistence. So I apologize about the formatting changes when I paste the slide in there. But what that says is no Outlook reconfiguration or OST sync required after a mailbox migration. So that was one of the features I was talking about earlier down here at the bottom. But if we support rich online coexistence, we can actually federate with your on-premise Exchange server. And that allows us to move in very, like I said, some users move 2 or 5 users a night, just in a very organized way, and they don't need to do a large cutover migration. So the enhanced federation that Exchange provides allows you to bridge that gap or move from on-premise to the cloud with your users actually not really even knowing they're now on a cloud mailbox. When you log on the OA on-premise, it will actually give you a link to their new OA location in the cloud, and vice versa. So very well integrated, still single connection point for your OA users. So a very seamless experience. Microsoft's done a great job. So again, when would we want to look at cutover or coexistence? Cutover, if I can do it in a weekend, let's try to do it in a weekend and not worry about the extra coexistence configuration, the cost, or the complexity, and just get you moved to the cloud. If you're a larger organization, that's probably not going to be possible. So we'll set up rich federation and over time slowly move your users to the cloud. So just a quick little commercial about Agile IT. So just 3 slides here before we end, and we'll go into a deeper question and answer session. So we do have a deep experience in enterprise consulting, and we've now leveraged this in Office 365 migrations. So our team has migrated over 500,000 mailboxes in our careers, and so we've never missed an email message. And so we really are now leveraging that experience and help bridging that to the cloud. Unfortunately, not everything is one-for-one, so we've had to learn where Office 365 is a little bit different in terms of setting our customers' expectations. So there's definitely a slight difference. You can't port your on-premise knowledge directly to Office 365, but once you see it once or twice, you'll learn that easiest solution to manage for your organization. So we also support IT services and fixed price customers, as well as have a deep enterprise consulting, so Hyper-V, PKI, Active Directory, deployments, SharePoint, etc. We have a fixed price offering called Agile Ascend. This helps move your users to the cloud. Includes a bronze version where we help your IT team move seamlessly to the cloud. It will include planning, piloting, and the actual migration and post-migration support, as well as our silver package, which will allow us to go to each workstation and help provide that extra quality assurance for remote offices or for your entire organization. And typically for smaller organizations, we'll work over the weekend and migrate users all at once. For larger organizations, that might be spread out over 2 to 3 months. And definitely contact us for a proof of concept. I did want to highlight one of our new offerings, and I apologize for the one extra slide, but Windows XP is soon to be out of life. And Microsoft does have a great solution called Windows Intune, which is the services of antivirus and System Center in the cloud coupled with Windows. So you get Windows 7 Enterprise for your desktop. So just like Office 365 E3 package includes the power of Office on your desktop, the full Outlook that you're used to working with all the cloud services, Windows Intune does as well. So now that you can get all your users upgraded to Windows 7 for a low subscription price and keep them up to date with Windows 8 for the life of your systems, we now have a great fixed price Windows deployment offering where we will help set up a customized image for your organization that will deploy Windows out via the network, Windows Deployment Services, or via USB key. And it even migrates all your user settings like signatures, etc. And so that just starts at a low price. And depending on your applications and how to automate them, we might need some additional work. But just a great fixed price solution for the Windows XP out of life ending 2014 date for the XP operating system. So does anyone have any questions? So I'm looking down here. So Adam, you currently have hosted Exchange through Rackspace. They have a complicated series of proxies to run their email servers. So we've moved a lot of users from Rackspace. Essentially, at the end of the day, they have an Exchange Web Services endpoint, and we use a cloud-to-cloud migration tool, which will connect to Rackspace and allow us to move the email seamlessly over. We don't support rich coexistence during that time, so it would be more of the simple coexistence that I talked about earlier, where you would have you would have full GAL and you can send email, but you wouldn't have free busy information, nor could you open a shared mailbox on Rackspace once you're moved to 365 or vice versa. But as long as you don't need free busy, you can still send meeting requests and normal email-based communications. But we don't really have that trickle capability with no resyncs or no OST file resyncs. So it's definitely supported. A lot of users have moved from Rackspace, mostly due to Microsoft's leading the charge with Office 365 being constantly upgraded, as well as the low prices. So do we have any other questions so we can talk about Federation? So yes, we have moved Lotus customers to 365. Just kind of a brief talking points on what happens with that. So email, calendar, those items move over relatively well. Email the best, calendar very well unless you have lots of integrated meetings. What is more complex about Lotus Notes migrations is you might have Lotus applications written on the Notes client. So there might be groupware applications. Those, unfortunately, need to be ported over to SharePoint. And porting it over is not as a simple or fixed, success of Exchange, where we, just move the email, the calendar, the tasks, etc. So, do you have those groupware applications, or is it just Lotus Notes for email, if I may ask? Yeah. So if they're simple, you can probably do it in SharePoint yourself. But sometimes we run into, larger organizations that might have 5,000 or 10,000 users, and the final, part of the workflow might talk to an SAP database or some other on-premise database. So we've had a little bit of challenges with those really custom applications. But normally, that customization brings so much benefit to the organization that they don't mind taking the time or cost to port it over. But from an email perspective, I think you'll have a very smooth and seamless experience. So the training of the workforce is handled typically with larger migrations. It's actually nice that you're working on 2 different email platforms, because we get to deploy Outlook way ahead of time. So training can actually happen with the user's true email. So in our migration process, we can move or kind of top off your cloud email up to 5 times. So I'll take initial copy of your mail of all your users and move it up to the cloud, and the users can actually be working on Outlook. They can send emails to each other, but unfortunately, they're not going to get the latest mail. It happens only when we run our update passes. But they can train for a month or 2 before the cutover happens. So that's actually a great experience, where normally on the when you're going Exchange to Exchange, we want to move everyone or their entire Outlook client at once, where you don't have the ability to have both mailboxes at the same time. So training would be handled, web-based, as well as just letting them experience the product before the cutover and kind of get their answer or their questions pre-answered. So using SharePoint WSS, which is the SharePoint that comes with Windows Server 2008, I think you can kind of call it SharePoint Foundation Server now, but it was the previous version to that. How does everything migrate to 2010? So the look and feel is going to be very familiar, but I will say that just moving documents from one SharePoint on-premise implementation that you've already developed to the cloud is a experience that you can just drag and drop the documents or cut and paste the content. But if you want to get the version history and such, you'll probably want to engage Agile IT, and we'll need to leverage some more in-depth paid tools to move all that versioning and make sure that your permissions and your history of who edited the document map up from one system to the other. So it's something that can be upgraded fairly easily, but there are some limitations on what you can do just out of the box with drag and drop and what you might need a more specialized tool for. But I do want to say that it's going to look exactly the same. And what most of our customers do is keep their on-premise implementation and start building out an improved version on Office 365. And because, especially when you're using Federation, you'll be logging on the on-premise or the cloud version with the same username and password, you can really float between them very easily. So, again, most companies, even when they're wanting to move all their files off their file server to the cloud, we're going to caution them a little bit to say, keep your file server, and why don't you learn about, Office 365 or leverage maybe some of the new features in a different way and rebuild your SharePoint site. So there's lots of different approaches to get you up there. So I do want to say, for those of you that aren't Microsoft technology partners, We didn't have too many questions that have stumped us, so I do want to say please reach out to the email I'm about to list, and I'll definitely get you an Amazon gift certificate just for attending. I wanted to thank you for your time, and Joshua and Tim for their excellent presentation on Office 365. Just keep the questions open for a couple more seconds if anyone has any last minute questions, and then we'll go ahead and end the conversation for today. Please do reach out to myself, Jason, or any of the other Agile IT team members if you're interested in any further proof of concepts on Office 365 or fixed price migration. So the user and group permissions can carry over, leveraging more sophisticated